Hello and welcome to the Right Now Oregon Show. I'm your host, Alex McCadden. You can find all episodes of this program, as well as breaking news updates and more great Oregon podcasts and editorials from Beaver State thought leaders online at www.rightnoworegon.com. Thanks for tuning in to today's show. Please introduce yourself and tell us which office you're running for and which party.
This is Douglas Tom Muck Jr. I'm running for Republican candidate for Oregon U.S. Senator.
What do you do professionally, and do you have any public service or military background?
Well, I'm Oregon National Guard for the military background, and I ran 5 companies here in Central Oregon. I retired from those in 06. And now I've got almost 700-acre ranch just out of Billings. That it's actually a prime building.
Can you tell me more about your life story up to this point?
I've always said that I felt like my generation is kind of to blame with what's going on in Oregon, not paying attention to politics much, just working so hard. And then after I retired, I ran into some situations that opened my eyes up to the Oregon government, the direction it was going. And for the last 13 years, I've been investigating Oregon government and law enforcement. And after that, I started finding an extreme amount of corruption. And I just kept digging, and the farther I dug, the more we found. So I just decided it was time to try to get a senator in Oregon that would listen to the citizens and look out for Oregonians. You know, we need to stay united, and unfortunately, I think that at U.S. level and Oregon level is designed to divide us. And I think that's on purpose. And we need someone that can unite us and bring us together and try to get Oregon back on track. We had our timber industry shut down, which just crushed Oregon. And the expenses of farming and ranching are just out of this world, and we're ending up with more and more regulations on farmers and ranchers, and we need to be able to provide the food for our local state and communities. And we need to have more support from the government, and we've since Oregon went to sanctuary state, which I was in college at Oregon State back then, didn't really pay attention to what was going on. But since I've been here my whole life, born in Coos County and raised in Central Oregon, I actually remember when it went from a full hand wave, everybody waving each other, to an era of a one-finger wave. And I used to run to open the doors for people and hold doors for people. And there was a thank you and you're welcome. And I remember the first time someone chewed my ass out for opening the door for them. And that was in the 90s. Now, what? You don't think I can open the door for myself? And I think things have just slowly changed on us without us being aware of it. And now it seems that the Oregon citizens have really woken up and united, and with this no tax petition, it's brought everybody together with the realization that if we unite, Oregonians can accomplish anything. And we need to get the power and the voice back to the people. And we need a senator that doesn't disappear until an election year comes. And, one of my main things is I want to be able to have my office open to phone calls from every concerned citizen and try to help them with their concerns. Everyone's going to have different ones, but I want to dedicate my office to helping each and every one of them and directing them to where they can get help or making calls to figure out how to help them. And we need to be able to get from providing everything for illegals in our state to providing everything for legal residents and actual Oregonians.
Now, can you tell me more about your community of Prineville?
The community here in Prineville?
Yeah.
We have, I've been around here a long time, since 1974, and we have a lot of great ranchers and farmers and, great people in Prineville. We have a fairly corrupt government in Prineville. We've switched out a few people that are doing better for the public. But, just like county commissioners here on a smaller scale that are developers, and they know about development property that they purchased before it gets brought into the UGB. And that's like working for the Oregon Lottery and knowing the numbers before the drawing. And we just got to stop that kind of stuff. We've got the sheriff's department here. We've got some great deputies on the sheriff's department, but the sheriff and this sheriff and the last sheriff, which he was an undersheriff on, is involved in over $10 million in fraud, theft, and money laundering that I'm trying to bring to the federal government right now. And the DA was involved in it. So just in our small community, for one example, we're fighting the corruption at this level. And I think it's everywhere. From what I've seen from my investigation, it's in every county. And we've got to get, that's why I'm running for U.S. Senator, to try to get above the Oregon government that is aware of these crimes and has been handed the information, given them the emails. I have the emails proving that they could get the written information proving these crimes. And they've denied wanting anything to do with it. And that's why in my campaign I call it the Oregon Political Crime Organization. And for whatever reason, they're destroying our state. And since we're a one-party rule in the valley, they're allowing the rural Republicans to do whatever they want. And they're terrorizing and it's unfortunate, but that's what's happening. They're terrorizing citizens and holding control over their heads, threatening them, and at these levels out here in rural Oregon. And, so far I've been involved in having 3 sheriffs removed from rural Oregon, and I'm working on 2 more. The one that's currently in Cook County and the one in Malheur County that refused to follow through with campaign fraud during the state senator campaign back in 24. And I have the paperwork and proof of that also. So the whole state's got to be cleaned up, and the AG won't do anything about it. The DOJ, the Oregon DOJ hasn't done anything about it, and the governor definitely won't do anything about it. So we've got to get someone at the U.S. level that can to bring this awareness to what's going on to all the individuals that are really truly being harassed and put in their place by officials that feel like they have, the power of God over everybody. And public are the people we need to be concerned for. You know, I don't have I haven't been in a political position, but I started and ran my 5 companies from scratch and was able to retire by 40. And, you know, public office is basically maintaining a business. The U.S. government and the Oregon government, that's what it's about, is maintaining a business. And if I would have ran my company or my companies the way that Oregon government runs our state, there's no way I would have been successful. You know, so I just feel like we need to unite, and I think the Democrats, Republicans, and independents are all starting to see that they're not happy. You know, and we gotta erase the fact that we have a D or an R in front of our registration, and just go for the O. You know, the big Oregon. And just at this point, we need to unite as Oregonians and realize that together we can accomplish anything.
As you go around the state talking to Oregonians, what are you hearing them say they want the next U.S. Senator to focus on?
Yeah, I've actually talked to several people from all over the state, and I think the biggest thing right now that's on everyone's mind is how to pay their bills. They have to decide between health care, food, gas, and rent. And, you know, families are taking extra jobs, you know, they can't. I talked to one gentleman, he makes actually a pretty good wage, but, you know, they got like 5 kids, and he's making $40 an hour driving truck, and his wife has to work also because his income covers his house payment, you know, health insurance, and gas, or I believe that's what he said, and then his wife has to work so they can buy food. You know, so basically everybody's being crushed by the high expenses. I think that's why the no gas tax petition went so well, because everybody's feeling it so hard. But health insurance has been the biggest issue by far. Trying to figure out affordable health insurance without a high deductible, you know, because if you can afford the health insurance, on top of it, you might have a $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 deductible that you have to pay each year before that. You know, in my example, I pay $1,300 a month individually for me. You know, and that $1,300, I got a $12,000 deductible that I would have to pay before the insurance would kick in on anything major. And those are the kinds of bills and expenses that really affect people. And I've been on the streets, you know, so many people just throw off that everybody on the street is the drug problem. And that's not even close to being true. You'll see that there are people with the drug problem, and those are the ones that are publicized mostly. But I've been on the streets in Eugene, Salem, Portland, and in Bend, and I've been down there talking to them. And the one that sticks out the most to me is a married couple in their 60s that were both on Social Security, and they ended up with some medical bills, and then they couldn't pay their rent, paying the medical bills, and then they got kicked out. They had nowhere to go, and they both were on Social Security, but they didn't have enough Social Security to build up for a deposit and first and last month's rent. And then they had no address anymore, so then they didn't qualify to even apply. You know, and then the Oregon actually kicked out all Oregon citizens out of the HUD housing programs and everything, and filled it with illegals that were here in Oregon. Kicked us all out. So they're out on the street as a married couple that have been married 40 years, both getting Social Security and just trying to live and be happy together in the situation that they're at. And those are the people that I've talked to. Those are the situations, talking to veterans out on the street that get veterans benefits and some SSI benefits, but it's not enough to save up or do anything for a home. So I'm not sure exactly how to fix the problem, because I've owned rental houses, and I know that you can't make any money on rental if you don't get a certain amount. But when I was renting my house out, I only rented it out for $950 a month. That was about 5 years ago. And now to get a decent rental, to what I've heard, is the very low is around $1,800 a month. So to my knowledge, at the very low for a small little house, it's more than doubled in 5 years. So people are forced to move into their cars or tents, and it's not just, those are druggies. If you really want to find out what's going on, go out and talk to these people. See what happened to them. Which wrong turn happened to them to put them on the street? And we've got to be aware of that. And we've got to try to lift those people up and help them and get them in. And regardless to any situation, there shouldn't be a veteran on the street. Veterans at the U.S. level should be stepping in for some help there and making sure that there's housing for all veterans. And then we need to step up and get those couples like that a hand up and get them into a position where they can survive. So, but I think the health insurance so far, by far, has been one of the major topics that people are concerned about.
Now, who is your favorite Oregon historical figure?
Well, that's a good question. I don't believe I had one. I mean, I'm just going to be honest about that. Nobody's really stuck out in my mind. And we live on a ranch that has is an old wagon stop. But I don't think there's been any Oregon historical figures that have really stuck out.
What would you say are the primary sources of your personal values?
Yeah, that's a hard one for me. The only real influence I had that was positive in my life was my grandparents. So I had, I did have, my grandma basically was the influence in my life. My values, telling the truth and how I stand on things, and I believe in God. I'm pro-life. I'm not going to change my personal opinions to get vote that way. I don't know if this sounds cruel or not, but I've never cared enough about people's feelings to lie. I just tell it as it is and tell the truth. That's the way, my grandmother influenced me. Unfortunately, I didn't have great examples as parents for my influences. And, I had a couple teachers in my life that stood out, but not really. You know, we had some pretty bad stuff happen to us in high school that I think just is becoming aware now. Now we that's a tough one. You know, I think all my personal values come from the fact that I believe in God and Jesus Christ, and I've tried to stick with that. People have been, you know, fairly cruel throughout my life experiences. So, you know, I just basically have to stick with the fact that my grandparents were solid and ensured good values in me, and you know, I accepted Christ when I was 14 years old, and I just tried to live by the way He'd want me to.
Next up, it's time for my world famous lightning round. So first up, ducks or beavers?
Well, I went to Oregon State. I was recruited to wrestle with my dad graduated from Oregon, and so I mean, I definitely support the Ducks because they're at Oregon College, but I always go with the Beavers.
Alrighty, what is your favorite Oregon landmark on the west side?
Well, I'm a big fan of the Oregon coast. You know, any specific landmark, I don't really have one. All I know is my favorite place to go on the coast is Netarts Bay out of Tillamook. That's my favorite place to go. Is Netarts Bay for camping and clamming. Yeah, it's just a beautiful little quiet spot.
Alrighty, now what is your favorite Oregon landmark on the east side?
Well, if I could show you a picture of my ranch, I would say it's my favorite spot. I got the views of every mountain in Oregon and Washington. But you know, be honest, I don't really drive around to look at landmarks. So pretty busy logging or fixing fence. You know, we got over 8 miles of fence on the place, so there's always fence to fix. And I stay pretty busy, and I try to work pretty hard. I don't get the time to really run around and look at something. My favorite place over here to go fishing, I would say, is Wickiup Reservoir. But other than that, you know, I live above the Crooked River here. Our ranch is right above the Crooked River, actually off the Crooked River Highway. And Prideville Reservoir's here. It's real beautiful there, but I don't get time to go really drive around and look at a landmark.
Alrighty, what is your favorite Oregon beverage?
Honestly, I only drink water and black coffee. I don't really drink. I don't drink beer or anything. So I don't know any beverages that are actually designed or created in Oregon.
Yeah, do you have a favorite Oregon coffee?
No, pretty much just Folgers.
What is your favorite Oregon food?
Beef. It's what's for dinner. Just basically beef. I was actually I had some cantaloupe from Hermiston this year, and that was really impressive.
Next up, can you tell us how voters can get in touch with you to learn more about your campaign?
Yeah, I'm basically just on Facebook. I do have one on X, but I'm returning 5 to 10,000 responses a day. I'm at 850,000 positive responses just off Facebook since September 11th. So, I feel like that the word, I'm getting the word out there, and people are very positive and supportive. I do get people that personal message me. I'm asking everybody to just follow me if they can, or friend me, and then, if they have a comment or a question, or they need help, to get a hold of me on my personal message, and I get to them all eventually. But I spend 4 or 5 hours a day just making sure I get back to everyone. And that's basically what I'm campaigning on, like I said, I'm just a regular person right now that's working long hours on a ranch and logging, and but I'm still trying to get back to everybody and their concerns, and guide them if I can in any direction. That's Facebook pretty much it. You can just punch in Doug Muck or Douglas Tom Muck Jr. I'll come up.
What is your stance on statehood for Puerto Rico?
Oh, well, I thought it pretty much already was the sovereign state of America. I mean, when I was in the Army, I think, I had 14 Puerto Rican brothers in my platoon. I pretty much already considered Puerto Rico part of America. I have to say that they're my brothers in arms, so they can be in the Army with me. I pretty much already figured they were part of America. I'm for it. If that's what they want.
Last up, do you have any final thoughts for our audience?
No, I think that covers it pretty good. I just want to make sure that everybody understands where I sit as far as wanting to give the power back to the people. I've said over and over, I'm running a people's platform. People ask me what my opinion is on something, and you can look through, and I'll give them an opinion, but I always ask for theirs. I think that a good politician is going to listen. There's no way that you can know everything, and getting some, there's definitely smarter people than me out there for sure, and I'm getting all kinds of great positive suggestions and well-written ideas from those citizens, and they're Democrats, Independents, and Republicans. They're all three, and they're conversing with me, and we're sharing our opinions back and forth, and I think that's the direction we need to go. I know for a fact that our forefathers did not set up two different parties for us to hate each other. They were set up for, different opinions to try to balance the United States. And I think that's what we need to look at. We need to look at balance, and we need to look at we can converse and still have different opinions and not hate each other. So, like I said, I'm running to have a senator in D.C. for Oregon that's actually going to listen to the Oregonians and know who their, I'll know who my boss is. It'll be every Oregon citizen. So that's about it.
Thanks again for joining us on this episode of the Right Now Oregon Show. This has been your host, Alex McCadden. You can find all episodes of this program, as well as breaking news updates and more great Oregon podcasts and editorials from Beaver State thought leaders online at rightnoworegon.com. Until next time, Oregon.